Oh, vampire. What could be more dramatic, complex, and fragile than a bunch of hidden vampires stalking the night? Well, how about the various companies writing and publishing stories about them? The release of V5 has been contentious, to say the least. Like with any new game edition, fans have been vocally divided about the releases. Some love it with an obsessive fervor, and some refuse to even entertain the slightest changes to the setting. In between these extremes, many fans simply seek to reconcile the material with the constant turmoil of publishing and development that's been in flux since 2018. Today, we'll take a look at the Vampire the Masquerade Companion, released free on the World of Darkness website. I'll provide my review and let you know if I think this is a worthy addition to the game or just another misstep in the Danse Macabre of V5. Now, let's roll 2d10. First, a little context. After some drama surrounding the release of V5, White Wolf was reabsorbed by its parent company, Paradox. I spent a good chunk of my History of the World of Darkness videos on said drama, so I'm not going to spend much time on it here. Go check out those videos for more if you're interested. After all the drama, White Wolf was unceremoniously reabsorbed by Paradox. Anyway, after Paradox took the reins back, much of the publishing and development were passed to two major gaming publishers, Modiphius Entertainment and Onyx Path Publishing. This seemed like a logical move for Paradox as both companies had long-standing relationships with the now defunct White Wolf. In the first quarter of 2020, Modiphius released the New Blood Starter Pack in January and Fall of London in March. Meanwhile, Onyx Path Publishing also continued developing V5 material like Chicago by Night and the accompanying supplements throughout 2020. Astute readers might have noted some stylistic differences between the two developers. Much of this is a matter of taste, and I'll save the commentary for a later video. While a ton of things were happening in the background with video games, board games, and the like, things were pretty quiet on the tabletop front. Then, in November of 2020, Paradox and World of Darkness announced that all future development for its universe would be brought in-house. As part of this move, the Vampire the Masquerade Companion was launched for free in December. And that's why you're here. Okay, enough background. Let's get down to what's in the guide and what I think about the content. I preface this review by reminding you again that this is a free book. If you play V5, there's no financial barrier preventing you from picking up this book and reading it for yourself. Don't take my review as gospel. All of this is subjective. Great. The Vampire the Masquerade Companion includes new clans. They aren't new to the setting, they're just new to V5. Discipline powers, new rules and information about clans and coteries, rules for mortals and ghouls, and errata and rules updates for V5. The companion is 64 pages split into 4 sections, which I will tackle individually. If you haven't read the book and you'd like to avoid any kind of spoilers, now is your warning. Alright, Part 1, the clans and their aptitudes, introduce 3 playable clans for V5. If you've been playing Vampire the Masquerade for some time, these 3 clans are not new to you. The Ravnos, Salubri, and Zemis have played prominent roles in all earlier editions, but remained conspicuously absent from previous V5 releases. First, let's tackle the Ravnos. This clan's never been one of my favorites. Much of their early history in Vampire is quite offensive to folks in retrospect, and they've always been a bit problematic. From edition to edition, the developers and writers have made efforts to revise that history, adapt the clan to deeper historical cultures, and, interestingly enough, outright wipe them from the face of the planet at the dawn of Gehenna. Pun intended. My personal tastes aside, the Ravnos as presented in V5 have been utterly excised of their history. The heritage of the clan has been totally washed away, leaving a clan that's essentially forced to wander because of reasons? Maybe because of their antediluvian, maybe not, maybe it's dead, maybe not, maybe no. A constant line through V5 is the establishment of clan nicknames. The clans had them in previous editions too, but now they have like 3 or 4 different ones. Anyway, we've abandoned the classic sobriquet of Deceivers and opted for the much more sanitary Rogues, Ravens, Daredevils, and the Haunted. Except for that last one, all of those nicknames sound like high school sports teams. The Ravnos' Bane, which is also quite different from earlier editions of the clan, sees the Ravens doomed. The Bane, which essentially boils down to the clan not being able to sleep in the same place in the same week, is both insanely severe and one of the easiest clan Banes to overcome. Quote, if they slumber in the same place more than once in 7 nights, roll a number of dice equal to their Bane severity. They receive aggravated damage equal to the number of 10s, critical results, rolled as they are scorched from within. This happens every time they spend the day in a location they've already slumbered less than a week before. What constitutes a location in this regard depends on the scope of the chronicle, but unless otherwise stated, 2 resting places need to be at least a mile apart to avoid triggering the Bane. Furthermore, a mobile haven, such as a mover's truck, is safe so long as the place where the truck is parked is at least a mile from the last location. Basically, get a camper. Also, don't fall into torpor. Right. Moving along. I'm not wildly insulted by the incongruity between these Ravnos and earlier editions of the clan. I wasn't spending much time playing them before, and it's unlikely I'll start now. Next, the Salubri. First, the big question for me. Why? The Salubri are an obscure bloodline that were hunted to near extinction. Previous editions have expanded the lore of the clan in a modern setting, adding additional playability. But in V5, the Salubri history seems to have been rolled back into a place of obscurity once again. They are hunted to near extinction, and their numbers are few. If the Ravnos Bane seemed too easy to you, don't worry. The Salubri Bane is insane and absolutely the deadliest, bordering on suicidal for anyone wanting to play them. Basically, if you're a Salubri, don't ever use a discipline around another vampire, friend or foe. Seriously, writers, what Salubri wronged you to treat them like this?
You know what time it is. It's time for Getting Real with Nate. Uh-oh.
First of all, if you taste Salubri blood, then chances are you're going to frenzy and want to continue to drink it. Their blood is like pure diablerie fuel. Cool, that sucks. But on top of that, they of course have the third eye that they get as soon as they're embraced, they receive. Unlike earlier versions where it only develops after a certain level of their discipline. Now, anytime they use a discipline, that eyeball weeps blood. The more powerful the discipline, not just their specific Salubri discipline, but any discipline, that eye weeps heavier. So use an advanced discipline, deluge of blood. Anytime you use your blood around a vampire, if they're at a hunger of 4 or lower, they immediately have to do a self-control. Doesn't matter if they're your friend or your foe. So basically, anytime you use a discipline around a vampire, you're going to be leaking blood continuously. Your blood is delicious and doesn't really matter because they could just go into a frenzy and kill you. Who hurt you? Finally, in this chapter, we get the Zemis. This is another complete rewrite and reimagining of a clan with a remarkable disregard for established lore. I don't know why I'm surprised at this point. It seems to be the rule rather than the exception. The Zemis are presented in V5 very much like old world capitalists. You know, big and nasty creatures who rule for the sake of ownership. They just want stuff. They aren't spiritually tied to the land like the classic vampires of legend who must now sleep in the soil. No, now they just hoard beanie babies because, like, dragons be collecting, yo. Dragons hoard, and the Zemis are dragons, right? I mean, this makes sense. The Zemis as presented here, again, represent an utter disregard for previous editions and almost 30 years of established lore to present us with draconic landlords with a hoarding disorder. Gone are the days of the Zemis Kolduns shackled to the vile spirit of Carpathia. This is the era of fleshy, Ventru-esque landlords. Yeah. So the Zemis have also been redesigned from the ground up in regard to disciplines and banes. As everyone suspected, vicissitude has been scattered to various disciplines, much like all previous clan-specific powers. This has been the policy of V5 since launch. Moving on to discipline powers, I must mention something that I find extremely bothersome about this edition. At launch, The idea of consolidating disciplines to a smaller, more universal number seemed like a logical thing to do from a game design standpoint. Less disciplines mean less reading and less space needed in the book. Instead of searching all over creation for this rare discipline or that rare discipline, everything could be found easily in 1 or 2 books. Except that's not what happened. You still need to hunt down your clan-specific powers, but now you have to look in 3 different disciplines, make sure you have the right power level of 2 disciplines to get the unique clan stuff. You gotta set up an amaglam. By my assessment, the removal and fracturing of these disciplines has actually made it more difficult to find the things you want. Not only that, but the powers of these vampires have outright changed in a number of circumstances. So what? They're just powers. Why does any of that matter? Well, the abilities of the clans and the powers they wield don't exist in a vacuum. They've had effect on the lore, the story, and the formation of the world. Why bring back the meta plot and revive the game if you're going to simply disregard it?
But Nate, what about the review?
Yeah, I get it. Sorry. Rant over. For the most part, the powers in this section seem to be on par with other V5 books. My personal opinions aside, if you like V5, you'll probably like this book.
Hold on just 1 second. Do you mean to tell me that you're not going to mention the level 5 power, One with the Land? You, sir, have got to be kidding me. This insane version of Earthmeld is essentially a reimagining of a level 9 vicissitude power, Earth's vast haven. But Professor Power Gamer, there's no level 9 powers. What are you talking about? Well, when you decide arbitrarily that your powers now cap at 5 in your new edition, it turns out you lose a whole bunch of world-altering powers from your meta plot. How do you reconcile that other than introducing some of these back in at lower levels? And yes, that also means that less powerful characters can now do things only Methuselahs could do before. Hey, but it works for me. Power is the only reason to even play these games, so I'm as happy as I could be.
Okay, let's move on. Part 2 dives into the clans and coteries of the game. Personally, I find anything that gives greater detail on modes of play to be a tremendous value regardless of the game. I think the addition of clan merits that work towards the goals of the coterie are fantastic. Tabletop games are meant to be group efforts. World of Darkness is no exception. Elements that promote group or team play are always welcome. That said, some of these merits are... Specifically, the Tremere merit is a bit of a stretch for me. Contextually, it kind of blurs the lines between in-game lore and out-of-game stats, too much for my liking. This one, I'd avoid at my table. Part 3 presents rules for ghouls and mortals. Obviously, this is a worthwhile and important addition to the game, and I find it shocking it took 2 years for these rules to be added to V5. I like this section a lot. It seems logical, well implemented, and fits within the rules as previously established. Page 59 offers a section called General Consent. Stop what you're doing and go read it now. Seriously, this shouldn't be hidden in a free companion. This should be on the first page of every gaming book. Paradox. Seriously, put this in every book you sell. Finally, we have errata. Errata's nice. I especially like the designer's comments after each update. I don't know that I've seen this much, but it's great to have an understanding of why a rule is updated when you implement it into your game. Okay, final thoughts. The V5 Companion is beautifully produced, filled with amazing artwork and incredible substance for a 64-page book. Also, it's free. That said, I'm underwhelmed by the clans, the discipline powers further muddy the water, and V5 continues to look more and more like a Vampire the Masquerade reboot and less like a version update. It's very difficult to review this PDF externally of V5. If you like the direction of the edition, you should very much enjoy this release. If you're a longtime player of Vampire the Masquerade who expects story-driven reasons for changes to the world, I'm afraid this might not be the book for you. Again, this edition seems to be obsessed with disregarding previous edition lore or presenting drastically incomplete material without any kind of clarification for players or storytellers, which in my mind is essentially the same thing. The changes to the clans and bloodlines in the companion seem arbitrary at best, and at worst, they seem to blatantly disregard the established lore of the game. In V5, when changes have been introduced to clans, They're often done without any update to the meta plot. Vampire is a game of story going back nearly 30 years. Neglecting that tradition now seems, frankly, lazy. If you're going to make changes, give reasons for the changes. I give the V5 Companion 2 dots out of 5. It's a slick, well-produced publication with lots of missteps by a team that I frankly expect much more from. The true value of this release is it's being released for free. Thanks for watching my review. Did you disagree with me? I'm sure many of you do. I know this book has been out for a while, so plenty of you have already had time to digest it. Let me know in the comments below. Do the YouTube dance and share, like, and subscribe. I'll see you next week with more gaming reviews, lore, and commentary. Happy New Year, and thanks for watching. What could be more entertaining? What could be more entertaining than watching a man get pummeled to death on live television? What could be more entertaining? What could be more compelling? And just go ahead and say fuck just for the record.